Hello, I am Keknia, and I will help you come up for the best deck for yourself in Clash Royale, with the addition of some tips and advice to improve your deck and playstyle. The lessons learned in this video are primarily geared towards ladder, but will most likely work for challenges as well. As a side note, I would like to point out that I will record, narrate, and edit this video all on my phone, so the quality might be lower than usual, but I sincerely hope that it will still be enjoyable. The most important part in creating a deck is picking the perfect deck archetype for you. Although some decks not as an archetype might work, most decks are more efficient and overall better when they are built around a deck archetype. In case you don't know, a deck archetype refers to the general group of similar decks that usually revolve around a specific win condition. I will talk about win conditions later in the video. Some common deck archetypes are Siege, Bridge Spam, Beatdown, Control, and Bait. Picking a deck archetype is completely opinionated and up to what you're most comfortable with. For example, this is a Golem Beatdown deck. Which is the Beatdown archetype. This is a, I don't know what archetype that is. This is a Siege archetype. That's a, I don't know. Yeah, I have weird archetypes, but that doesn't really matter. The second most important part in creating a deck is picking its win condition. Win conditions are cards that do the direct damage to your opponent's towers, and the cards that you need to protect and do everything in your power to let them connect and deal damage to the tower. Win conditions can be Balloon, Giant, Goblin Barrel, Graveyard, Expo, Mortar, and others. You can pick whatever win condition you want, but I would advise you to pick a higher level win condition that also has high level synergies relative to your average card levels. For example, if I have a Balloon that is level 5, and that is a really good win condition because most of my epics are level 4 or below, except my lightning, so it's a very good idea to have higher leveled win conditions. The next important step is finding cards that synergize with your win condition. They should primarily be cards that protect your win condition. An example of one of these cards is the Witch in a Golem Beatdown deck, because it will help clear swarms for the Giant so it can more easily reach the tower. You should have at least one of these cards, and it is better to have more, but not too much that it unbalances your defense. Speaking of defense, the next step in creating a deck is to add in the defense. Defensive cards may vary, and choosing your most efficient ones for your deck may be tricky. At this point, since you already have your win condition and support cards laid out, I lost my spot. I am very stupid. Okay, there. You should think of what your cards your opponent will most likely use to counter your win condition and support cards. For example, if my win condition is the Balloon, I may want to consider adding arrows into my deck so I can counter minions and minion horde. And another example is if there is a lot of I am stupid. There are many great defensive options out there, but try finding ones that will counter the cards you think your opponent might have based on the most common cards you see in your arena. For example, if there are a lot of mini P.E.K.K.A.s in your arena, you may need to add guards or a skeleton army into your deck as defense. But as a tip that I always follow, you should always have a beefy defensive unit in your deck. So it's a really good idea to follow the meta in your current deck. If there's like a lot of elite barbs or something, you should consider adding a card that counters those elite barbs. Some good cards that fit this role are Valkyrie, Bowler, Ice Golem, which doesn't really do much damage, but it can distract units while soaking up damage. Another card role that is a necessity is some kind of splash troop that can target air, which are cards like the Witch, the Wizard, Ice Wizard, Princess, Executioner, and in some cases Electro Wizard. It is also a very good option to have another air targeting unit such as the Musketeer, Mega Minion, Minions, Electro Wizard, and others. Another good defensive option is a unit that can take down tanky units and does a lot of damage, Some good examples of this are Inferno Dragon, Mini P.E.K.K.A, Night Witch, P.E.K.K.A, Mini Minion, Minions, Inferno Tower, and Wizard. Although squishy, also does a lot of damage. Another good defensive card is a card that can distract, such as Skeletons, Guards, Knight, etc. Another big necessity in forming a deck is spells. The amount of spells is up to you, but it's good to have at least a spell. And if you're going to have one spell, it is a solid choice to have one that does at least medium damage, such as the Fireball. If you're going to have only one big damaging spell in your deck, like a Lightning or a Rocket, it's always good to bring a small damaging spell along with it, such as the Zap or Giant Snowball to help you in a pinch. Though not a spell, Fire Spirits also fit the category well as like a small, quote, spell. As long as you have cards fitting all these categories, your deck should stand up pretty well. The additional filler deck spots can be filled with any deck of your choosing, but they should be cards that synergize with the rest of your deck. For example, if you're using an Expo deck, it seems a little odd to add a Golem into the deck. Some good filler cards are additional spells, distracting troops, cycle cards, and support cards. This tip right here applies to every card category in your deck. You should probably have the highest leveled card that fits each role for optimal performance in your deck. For example, in your air defense, if you have a level 8 Musketeer, but only a level 6 Wizard, it might be a better option to choose the Wizard. After all, ladder is a pay-to-win system, and a lot of times the card levels can greatly impact the outcome of the battle. Now that you have your deck made up, I'll give you some tips on how to improve it. Piss it up first by getting on a ladder, or battling against a friend with them having a completely random deck. If there are cards that you have trouble with, try altering your deck a teensy bit so you can counter these cards. After this step, I suggest battling against your friends or clanmates to practice the deck and figure out its playstyle and how you can most efficiently counter every troop of your deck. Another good tip in improving your deck is finding a pro who has a similar deck or deck archetype and watching how they play it. You can learn a lot from watching their pros' playstyle and how they handle different situations that previously you might not have thought that you could have handled. Now that you've created, playtested, and improved your deck, it's now ready for battle. I hope you learned a lot from this video, and it wouldn't hurt to leave suggestions or thoughts in your comments. Thank you for watching. Keknia.